Chulin Daf Mem Gimel. Omar Ula says Ula Chesmine Trefasim. There are 8 categorical types of Trefas. Nemru Moshe Sinai that were told to Moshe on Har Sinai. Nikuva, if one of the types of Trefas is if there's a whole psuka, means if something's severed. Netula means if something's missing. Chasura means if not the entire thing is missing, but it's missing a part of it, a part. Krua, if something is ripped. Drusa is if it was attacked by a wild animal. Nefula, and if an animal fell off the roof. Ushvura, and something is broken. So these are the 8 main types of trefas, and he categorizes. He's not necessarily arguing on the Yudchas trefas we had before. He's just categorizing them into 8 different types of psulin. Now, fuki lekusa, and he's coming to exclude if you have lekusa, which means if a certain organ just became ill, like we said, the kidneys, if one of them became ill and was filled up with mucus, so it's a problem. So he's arguing with that. He's saying that's not a problem. And fuki lekusa to exclude lekusa de rochesh bar papa, that Rosh bar Papa said. Okay, Amar Chia bar Rava says Chia bar Rava ches trefas yesh nekuva. There are 8 type of trefas that are puzzle with under the category of a hole. If something has is pierced. Im toimar test, and if you would say, if you tell me no, there's a 9th. The Mara is the 9th one. If the gallbladder has a hole, it's puzzle. It says the Gemara, that's Rabbi Eliyahu bar Yehuda Katanya. That's only according to Rabbi Eliyahu bar Yehuda. The Tanya, like we see in the Bryce and Nikva Keva, if the last stomach got a hole, or Nikva Dakim, or the intestines, Treifa, Rabbi Eliyahu bar Yehuda, Af Nikva Mara. Also, if the Mara, the gallbladder had a hole, heals its puzzle. So that's specifically Rabbi Eliyahu bar Yehuda. Amar Rabbi bar Yosef. Amar Rabbi Yechanan halacha Rabbi bar Yehuda. Halacha is like Rabbi bar Yehuda, and we have to be machmer. The Amar Rabbi bar Yosef. Amar Rabbi Yechanan. Maya haju leichavre leRabbi bar Yehuda. What did the friends of Rabbi bar Yehuda answer him to argue and say that the Mara is not puzzle if there's a hole? It says the Gemara. We bring a pasuk from Eilihu which says, Yishpoich la'aretz mirerasi. My mara, it literally means my bitterness will flow to the ground, will pour to the ground. But the Gemara understands it to be a reference to the mara, the gallbladder, which is the source of melancholy in the body. So Yishpoich la'aretz mirerasi is Eilihu saying that my gallbladder, my mara, is leaking. You see, Eilihu was still alive, even though there was a hole in his gallbladder. Kavyochel. Amar lahem. So he told them back, Ein maskir ma'aser nisim. Don't bring me a proof from miracles. Why? Because I'll prove it to you. If you don't want to say that this is a miracle, Yiflach kil yosai v'lo yachmoil. Eilihu also says in that same verse that my kidneys are ill. They're problematic, and Hashem doesn't have mercy on me. So if so, Mika Chaye, don't we know that at least there's an opinion that holds that that if your kidneys are ill, then you won't live. So Elani, so what do you see? That Eilihu was like a miracle. He was a walking miracle. So don't bring me a raya from the fact that his mara had a hole. Ela nisa shiny. Miracles are different. Iksiv rakas nafshay shemor. Hashem even commanded the Satan to make sure that Eilihu lives. So you see that he had extra protection to live. So you can't bring a proof from that. Hochanami nisa shiny. So too over here by mara. Don't bring me a proof, and I would say that it's a miracle. Rabbi Eliyahu said Allah is like the one who says that if the kaved, this is a reference to the kaved. If the kaved, our Mishnah said that if nitla kaved, if the liver was missing, and nothing was left at all. So Rabbi Yochanan says Allah is however you need a kazayas. If you have a kazayas, it's kosher. If it has less than a kazayas, then it's not kosher. Asks the Gemara, Rabbi Yochanan Hachi, V'ham Rabbi Barchan Rabbi Yochanan, Allah is Mishnah. Didn't Rabbi Yochanan say Allah is like a Mishnah? And it says in our Mishnah, Nitla Kovid Lo Yishtar Mina Klum. that if there's nothing left, only if there's nothing left, that's when it's puzzle, but hanishtayir. But if there's even something, it's kosher. Even though there's no kasai. So we have a contradiction in Rabbi Yochanan, because Rabbi Yochanan seems to say that halacha is like stam mishnah. Halacha would be like our mishnah that says you don't even need a kazais, and then he says, yeah, you need kazais. You're right. Really, this is there's a dispute as to what Rabbi Yochanan holds, and there are two opinions in from the tradition of what Rabbi Yochanan said. Okay, the Amar Rabbi Yitzchak bar Yosef or Rabbi Yochanan, another statement in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. Mara shenikva the kovid seitamta. If the gallbladder has a hole, we said it's a problem. But let's say the kovid is seitamta. If the liver is blocking it, so in effect it's sort of protecting the issue over here because it blocked up the hole. So he says it's kosher. If the kurkvan, that's the gizzard. The gizzard is part of the digestive tract of a bird. They don't have teeth, so first goes the food that they eat through their beaks goes into a stomach, and then into the kurkvan, which is a sort of a grinder. So that kurkvan, if it has a hole, the kis shalaykayim, however, the inner membrane, the inner sac that's within this kurkvan, within the gizzard, it's still intact. It doesn't have a hole, so then it's kosher. It has a very strong membrane on the inside of the gizzard to protect the muscles from all the grinding. So as long as the inside is fine, then it's kosher. We ask a question on the statement from Yochanan. How about nikav hakis vekurkvan kaim? Let's say the opposite. Let's say the inner pocket, the inner membrane that's of the gizzard. Let's say that has a hole, and the outer one is fine. The kurkvan, the outside fine. The outside is intact. It's going to be kosher because Rabbi Nachman said that if only one was punctured without the other, then it's kosher. And they add an or this opposite this, meaning even if you have a hole in the outer part of the kurkvan and the inner part of the kurkvan, but as long as they're not parallel to each other, they're two separate holes in two different parts, then it's also kosher. Either way, we see here that in order for the gizzard to make it a piercing in the gizzard to make it a puzzle, it has to be both in the outside and in the inside part. Amar Rava says, Rava shnei aretz yesh laveshta. There are two skins to the esophagus, meaning two membranes that the esophagus is composed of. Chitzayin adam, the outside is red, upnimi lavan, the inner one is white. Nikav zebel is that kosher. If only one of them had a hole, then it's kosher. Asks the Gemara, Lama li lememar chitzayin adam upnimi lavan. Why does he have to stress the fact that the outer is red and the inner is white? We know this. It's obvious. You take a vesh and you'll see it. So the Gemara that if it's actually inside out and you see the outer one is white and the inner one is red, then that's a problem and it's treifa. Okay, Ibaylahu asks the Gemara, let's say you have a hole in the outer part of the esophagus and the inner part of the esophagus, in the white and the red. There's a hole in each one, but it's not parallel. It's not one long hole. In the red, it's on top, and on the white part, it's all the way down. So now they're both punctured, but it's not keneged zeh. It's not zeh keneged zeh. It's not one opposite the other. What's that? Papa beveshet kosher. This in this type of situation in an esophagus, it's fine. But the kurkvan is puzzle, unlike what we just said before. Maskif lo Rav Ashi asks Rashi, it should make sense. The opposite should make sense. Veshet the achlobei, the veshet that the animal eats with it. Upaya, and it sort of makes noise. It coughs. Then rovach, it stretches in gamda and it contracts. Upashtale, and then it stretches again. So therefore, zinin demihandizin bahadiyadodi. Sometimes it's engineered that the two holes end up being parallel to each other. So meaning, if you tell me that since the holes are not parallel to each other, it's going to be kosher, by a veshet it should be problematic, because many times, because of all the stretching and action that goes on in the veshet, so the holes will end up being parallel to each other. So then by a veshet it should be problematic. By a kurkvan, which it seems it doesn't really move around, so then that should be kosher. Kurkvan demenach nayich, kurkvan which is relatively calm, all the holes stay in the right places, nothing moves around, and therefore it should be fine. Tells Rav Ashi, This is what we say in the name of Mar Zutra. The Amar Shmei Rav Papa, they said in the name of Rav Papa Kavasech, meaning we have Rav Papa said like you too. That obviously you see over here that the issue of having holes that it really has to go through the from inside all the way out. And the whole chashashes were concerned that that in a situation where the organ moves around, it actually might be a full hole from inside all the way out. Continues the Gemara. Let's say because the veshet had a hole and it was bruised, and then a membrane grew to cover it. Ein a krum, he says it's not considered a covering, and it's not going to be considered healed. It's not considered kosher. It's not going to be considered kosher, and it's a problem. V'amar Rabba, and Rabba continues. The esophagus can only be checked inside, not outside. Ask Gemara, in what situation will you have to check it? Says Gemara, the suffix drusa. Let's say you have a situation where you found a lion roaming around a herd, right? So you're not sure whether one of the animals was attacked by this lion or not. So it's called suffix drusa. We're not sure if it was attacked. So in that situation, you would have to check the esophagus to see if there's a hole, to see if it was damaged. So in that situation, we were saying you can't check the outside. Since the outside is red, you won't be able to tell if there's a hole there, if anything bled. Because it's red, it blends right in. But you have to turn it inside out and check the inside, the white, and if you see droplets of blood, then it's a problem. You know that there was a hole and there was a drusa over here. Hahi suffix drusa, there was a suffix drusa, an animal that we had doubt and we were concerned that maybe it was attacked. The asayla kameiderov, it came in front of Rabba. Hava kabodik le Rabba leveshet me'avayit. Rabba was checking the esophagus from outside, and really abai. It tells v'amaru dam leveshet and the b'dikal. Weren't you, my master, the one who said that you can only check it inside? So Rabba turned it inside out, and he checked it, and he found trei kurte doma, 2 pieces of blood, v'tarf, and he made it treif. Asks the Gemara, Rabba nam lichtu de'abai hu de'abai. Says the Gemara, Rabba knew what he said. He was just trying to sharpen Abai. I mean, he was trying to test him to see if he would be sharp in his learning and remember the previous statement the Rabba said. So really, of course, he knew. He was just testing him. Omar Ula says, Ula yoshav lekoitz beveshet. If a thorn got stuck in the esophagus, we're not concerned that the thorn actually penetrated and made a hole through the veshet. So even though we see a thorn there, we do not have to be concerned that it actually made a hole. Asks the Gemara, what's the difference suffix drusa? We saw that we have to be concerned if maybe an animal was attacked. So you see, when you have a suffix in a treifa, you have to be concerned. So too, why over here, if you see a thorn, maybe it penetrated, why are we so confident to say that it's kosher? Because Savarula says the Gemara, he holds ein choshish in the suffix drusa, and you're right, he doesn't care about suffix drusa either. Says the Gemara, what's the difference from a classic situation where you have 2 pieces of meat, 2 pieces of fat, one is non-kosher fats, of the non-kosher fats you're not allowed to eat, and one of them is the regular fats that you're allowed to eat. In that situation, we say it's asur. Right, so meaning Gemara saying what's the difference? It's a suffix. It's every suffix we go l'chumra. Just like when you have 2 pieces of fat and one is kosher, one's not, you have to go l'chumra. Says the Gemara, Hasan is chalz. No, over there's already a presumed isser. We know for sure that there's something prohibited on the table, and therefore we have to go l'chumra. We have to be stringent. But in the situation over here, you never know. There was never any isser here, any bivada isser, any for sure. Situation that made Issa over here, because you never knew if the thorn maybe never penetrated. So there's no presumed Issa. Asks the Gemara, what about the situation when you slaughter with a knife and you find it pugum, and then you find it that it has a nick, so it was a pasal shchita, right? But still over there, you're not sure if when you slaughtered it, the nick was there or not. Says the Gemara, over there was an actual reisa, an actual blemish, an issue in the knife. But over here, there was no issue. You just found the thorn. You still don't know if it penetrated. So, in essence, over here, what we're saying over there, the animal has a cheskas isur. Any animal before you shechted has a cheskas isur because it's also because of evim nachai or cheskas ein zavuach. And so either way, we the Gemara in the first parak said that any animal has a cheskas isur. So therefore, if a suffix arises in the shechita, so then we say since there's a cheskas isur, so therefore it remains asur because there's a presumed status of prohibition. But over here in this situation, there's no presumed status of prohibition whatsoever because you don't even know if the thorn actually penetrated. It says the Gemara, what about why is this different from? We know the rule is that if you have if you're not sure if there's a suffix whether something became tameh, became impure in rishus hayochid, in a private property, in a private road or private property. So the halach over there is the sfeikoi tameh. We go l'chumra, we say that it's tameh. So it should be the same thing. We should say we should go l'chumra, just like over there go l'chumra. Over here we should go l'chumra. So the Gemara tameh chidmai l'safek tumor rishus harabim. According to you, why don't we compare it to safek tumor rishus harabim? We hold that if there's a safek and tumah in a public property, in a public place, then we go l'chumra. We go l'kula. So why would you ask a question one way more than the other? The Sefer Torah over there, the suffix is tar. So why are you asking a question if you have an exact opposite proof? It says over there, it's just halach ma'ashem. We see that to learn it from saita, that a saita in private we go l'chumra, and a saita who might have committed adultery in private, that's where adultery is usually committed. And therefore, we learn from there that you have to be stringent in a case of suffix, but that's only regarding tumah. You can't learn out from to everywhere else. That's a specific thing regarding tumah, and therefore, you cannot apply that to anywhere else. Yosef Ahumar Rabbanan Kamed Rav Kana. There was a rabbi that was sitting in front of Rav Kana. V'Yosef v'Ka'amar Nimtzeis Itmar. Only if it was found, meaning if this thorn was found in the veshet without it actually being embedded in there. So that's when this whole discussion that Ula said that it's fine. Aval yashav, but if it was actually embedded in there, if it was tachu, if it was sort of in there a little bit, so then he holds no, you do have to be concerned that maybe it actually penetrated and made a hole. Amar Lahu Rav Kana says Rav Kana loy tatzitulei. Don't listen to him. He didn't know what he's talking about. Yashav itmar. No, the situation that Ula said Lakula was when it actually did penetrate it. Not that it penetrated, it actually was embedded into the veshet. Aval nimtzeis, but if it was just found, you just found a thorn in the veshet, that's not a problem. Ula would not have even had to say that it's mutter. The kulu cheve breasa, all animals, all wild animals have koitze achman, they eat thorns, right? So obviously that's not a problem. We all know that the animals all eat thorns, and you find a thorn in the esophagus and it's totally fine. The only issue is if it was embedded into the veshet. That's where Ula started saying whether you have to be choishes or not, and then we asked on him, what do you mean? Since it's embedded, it might be a suffix, and we say no, he holds it's always lakula, and even in that situation, Ula held that it's fine. Itmar asks the Gemara, turbat haveshet. If you have the turbat haveshet is where the esophagus gets connected to the jaw. So in that part of the esophagus, Rav Omar b'mashu. Rav says that one little nick, one little hole in that place will make it pasul. Shmuel Omar berubai, but Shmuel says no. It has to be cut mostly, and only if the majority of that turbat haveshet, which is where the esophagus connects to the jaw, only if the majority of it is cut, so then it's pasul. Rav Amar b'mashu, Rav says even a little bit makes it pasul. Why? Because it's makam shchitahu. You can shecht over there, and since it's makam shchita, so therefore we know that it's part of the veshet. And once it's part of the veshet, then it must be that even a small nick will make it pasul. Shmuel Amar berubai says no. In order for it to be considered treifa, it has to be cut majority. Why? Because lav makam shchita, it's not part of the veshet, and therefore it needs more. Says the Gemara, "Hay new turbat haveshet." What is at what point is it called turbat haveshet? Amar Mari bar Mar Ukva Amar Shmuel Kol Shechoit Choy Umarchiv. Any as long as you're high enough up on the esophagus that if you cut that point, at that point, it spreads out, meaning it's when it's attached, it's sort of held together, but then the second you cut it, it spreads out. It releases the tension and it spreads out. Zeu turbet zaveshet. That's already called turbet zaveshet. But if you cut it and the place where you cut it and it just stays the same circumference, then zeu veshet atzmai. That's the actual veshet. So that's the way you can know where the turbet zaveshet starts. Amar lahu Rav Papi says Rav Papi tells him, Mar lo amar hochi. My master did not say this way. Mani who was Mar Rav Bevi bar Avaye. Ella, what did he say? Any place where you cut it and it remains the same circumference, so turbet zaveshet. That is the turbet zaveshet. Ela ezu veshet atzmai. So what is the veshet itself? As long as you cut it and it shrinks and it contracts, that already is called the veshet. Okay. Yoina. How about in a dove? Some hold this means a rabbi, a Rav Yoina said the statement, but the Beis Yosef says seems to say that it means in actual we're talking about a dove. And Amar Rav Zera mi b'la'asa. The turbet zaveshet is where it swallows. The place where it swallows, close to the head, meaning all the way up, much higher up, where the animal swallows, that's what's called the turbet zaveshet. The kama, and how big is this place? How big, how large is the turbet zaveshet? It's smaller than the length of a piece of barley, but it's bigger than the length of the piece of wheat. Meaning it's in between the measurement of a piece of barley and wheat. Hahutura, there was this ox, Dava libnei bar Rav Ukva. The sons of Rav Ukva had this ox. The Atchil bei Shchita b'turbet zaveshet. They started the Shchita in the turbet zaveshet, the Gomer b'veshet, and then they finished it in the veshet. So Omer Rava, says Rava, Ramina alei chumri de Rav v'chumri de Shmuel. I put onto them the chumras of Rav and the chumras of Shmuel. V'tarif nalei, and then I said it's treif. What does this mean? Chumri de Rav, the Amar Rav de Mashu. Rav said if you have even a small nick, it's already considered puzzle. The Amar Rav makam shchita. What do you mean? Didn't Rav say it's makam shchita, so it's fine? You shechted over there. What's the big deal? Ella kishmuel, because he's being makmer also like Shmuel. The Amar Lav makam shchita. He says according to Shmuel, it's not makam shchita, and therefore it's puzzle. It says Gemara Shmuel, but if you're going to Shmuel, Amar beruba, it has to be the majority cut over there in order to be puzzle. Over here it wasn't. You only started over there, then you continue later on, further down into the veshet. So according to Shmuel, it's fine. It says the Gemara Kirav, no, but he's going but he's taking the chumrah of Rav that even in a small amount it's possible in turbet zaveshet. So what he's doing over here is really he's holding both sides of the rope. He's taking Rav's chumrah that even a small amount passes it, and he's being mitzaref that he's combining that with Shmuel's chumrah that is not makom shchita. So Yigalgal Milsa, and so this the story what happened over here continued. It developed until Matod Kamei Rab Abba, until it came in front of Rab Abba. Amar Lahu, he told him, Tura, this ox, Bein LeRav, Bein LeShmuel, Shari. It's mutter, whether according to Rav and Shmuel. Zilu Amar LeBrei de Rav Yosef Bar Chama, go tell the son of Rav Yosef Bar Chama, that was Rava, the L'Shalom Dami, he has to pay for the ox. The L'Shalom Dmei Tura, he has to pay for the amount of the ox, because he said it's possible. So what did they do? They fed it to the dogs. Oh, it's not kosher. He says, what are you talking about? Of course it's kosher. According to Rav and Shmuel, it's kosher. So he has to go pay now. Omar Mor Braid Ravina says, Mar Braid Ravina. I'm going to prove Rava wrong from a brisa. Now, Sanoi Rav, the Rava means the hater of Rava. Now he didn't want to say that he's he's upschlugging. He didn't want to say that he's going to prove Rava wrong, so he said like a euphemism against the enemies of Rav. of Rava. But how's he proving him wrong? The Mishnah says in Mishnah in Edios, it's a Mishnah in Erevin. Either way, the Mishnah says, La'olam halacha get to Rabbi Sil. Halacha like to Rabbi Sil. If I write to last get to Rabbi Shammai, but if you want to do like Rabbi Shammai, Oisa get to Rabbi Oisa, you can do. Kedivrei Besilil Oisa. If you want to do like Besilil Oisa. So the Gemara in a few seconds is going to ask, what do you mean? You just told me the halacha is like to Rabbi Sil, so now why are you giving me the option? Okay, continues the Brayso. So Mikule Beis Shammai, Mikule Beis Hillel Rasha. If you want to take the leniencies of both Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel, then you're a Rasha. You're considered an evil person. Mechumre Beis Shammai, Mechumre Beis Hillel. If you want to take the stringencies of both of them, on you, the pasuk says, the foolish one in the darkness goes. Ella Beis Shammai. If you're gonna go like Beis Shammai, Kekulein Uchechumrein. You should take the leniencies and the stringencies. Beis Hillel. If you're going like Beis Hillel, Kekulein Uchechumrein. If you take the leniencies and the stringencies of Hillel, of Beis Hillel, there's either you have to go consistently with one sheet. Why? Because obviously, if you take the kulas of both or the chumras of both, then you're gonna end up being inconsistent in what you do, in what you believe. And you're going to contradict your own actions. Asks the Gemara Agufa Kasha, just a question on the Brayso. There's an issue over here. Amart la'olam halacha to Rabbi Sil. You said halacha like to Rabbi Sil, and then you said V'hadar Tani, and then you say I write to last Rabbi Shammai Yasa. You could do like Rabbi Shammai. What do you mean? You just said halacha like Beis Hillel. The Gemara says like Kasha is not a question. Kam koidim baskel kanachar baskel. When we say you can do what you want, that was before the baskel, before the heavenly voice came and said that halacha is like Beis Hillel. But after the baskel said halacha is Beis Hillel, then that's what the beginning of the verse is referring to, halacha like Beis Hillel, and you have to do like Beis Hillel. Viba Yisayma, or after baskel. Maybe it's even talking after the baskel came out, and Rabbi Yeshua and this is the going according to Rabbi Yeshua, who holds ein mashgichim b'vaskel. We don't care if heavenly voices come out. Shamayim can't tell us what the halacha is. It's something that's to be determined by a bezdin over here, and therefore he doesn't care about the baskoil, and therefore he says if you want you can do like Beis Shammai. Mikol mokum kashya. So still we're left with a question on the Rava, because over here you see that you can't take the chumras of two people, and right, we just said if you're aksil l'chashich, if you take the chumras of Beis Shammai and the chumras of Beis Hillel. So now, how do we understand Rava? As the Kashan Rava, who took the chumrah of Rav and Shmuel, not only was he stringent in two separate areas that have nothing to do with each other, he was stringent in two contradictory areas, because if it's makam shchita, right, then only then it's pasul b'mashehu, if it was nicked just independently. But if you started the shchita there, so then it's totally fine, because the only reason why it's pasul b'mashehu is because it's makam shchita. And it has a din just like the veshet, and therefore it's possible even b'mashu. And then of course you could shacht over there. But if you're going with the other tzad that it's not makam shchita, so then it's not possible b'mashu. So this makes no sense. So Omer Rav Tevus, says Rav Tevus, kulak Rav Avda. He did everything like Rav, meaning really he wasn't taking the chumrah of Shmuel. He was holding 100% like Rav, and Rav holds like Rav said. He said, he said, don't listen to these general rules. The Kyle Yehuda Achi, that my brother Yehuda said, Mishmei de Rav. Hachi Amar Rav, this is what Rav said. Rav didn't say like we recorded it before. This is what Rav said. Veshet nasnu b'chachamim shiur. The veshet, the esophagus, the rabbis gave an actual limit. They limited it, and they said that that there's a certain amount of space that's called the veshet, and after that it's not called the veshet anymore. Michlal, and you see from here that the two words of veshet lav makom shchitahu. That since the chachamim put a limit, you see they actually put a limit to it. That means that obviously the two words of veshet is not called veshet. The ka'omar, and still Rav said b'mashu, that's supposed to be b'mashu. So you see that Rav actually does hold that it's both considered makom shchita and it's possible b'mashu. Ad kan. Sorry. Rav holds it's lav makom shchitahu, and it's still pasul b'mashu, and therefore this animal was considered pasul. Ad kan chulin daf mem gimel.